G'day, I'm Lachlan Cartwright. Welcome back to the Breaker Pod. This week, coming to you from Fish Cheeks in NoHo, the New York home of Thai seafood, family style, straight to your soul. Cheers to the owner, Jan Wenner, for inviting us down. If you would like your venue featured on the Breaker Pod, get in touch, breaker@breakermedia.com. My guest today needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one regardless. Janice Min is a media visionary who has repeatedly taken some of journalism's biggest brands and made them culturally unavoidable. She turned Us Weekly into one of the magazine industry's major success stories before reinventing both Billboard and The Hollywood Reporter into Tinseltown's most feared and must-read publication. Today, she's not just chronicling Hollywood's transformation, she's engineering a new model outside the crumbling legacy and trade publication ecosystem as CEO of Ankler Media, turning into Hollywood's most influential publication. Janice Min, thank you for joining us on the Breaker Pod.
That's quite the introduction. Thank you, Lachlan.
Well, you're well deserving of it. The news gods must have known we were going to sit down today as we're recording this, because just yesterday, Netflix announced they're buying Warner Brothers in a massive $83 billion deal to create a streaming giant. Hollywood seems freaked out. Why?
Okay, so many reasons why. And yes, the news gods, we are people who the news gods smile on, right?
Right, very much so.
I think you and I have that in common. Okay, so for starters, let's back up. Everyone thought, literally until yesterday morning, that Paramount was the shoe-in. I mean, is there a picture that David Ellison has not been in with Donald Trump, right? They're like sitting at UFC together.
Right.
He's at dinner with MBS, the state dinner at the White House. So that there was first overcoming that shock element, and then sort of the reality set in fast and hard in Hollywood yesterday, which was Hollywood's very good at this, probably better at it even than journalists. Full-blown panic.
Yeah, meltdown.
So if you look at the history of consolidation in Hollywood, despite what Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters, the co-CEOs of Netflix, were saying in the conference call, the history of consolidation has usually meant a few things in Hollywood.
Job losses?
Huge, not just like a little trim haircut here or there, like staggering job losses, and in the thousands and thousands. And I mean, I think if you look back at whatever period of time you want to look back in consolidation in Hollywood, I'm sure it amounts to hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. And so, like, let me just put some more context around that. Right now, Los Angeles, where both Warner Brothers and Netflix are based, the unemployment rate is 33% higher than the national average right now. Wow. So, coal miners, forget it. There's Hollywood. And,
so you thought journalism was bad.
Exactly. And so you have this staggering unemployment. This is, I don't care what they say. This will result, when they say synergies, we both know that's a wink. It's a wipeout.
Right.
And so you have that. Then on top of that, you have this marketplace. When studios and streamers consolidate, you have the marketplace shrinks. And so if you are Lachlan Cartwright selling a hot script, which maybe you have in you, and you want to get HBO and Netflix in a bidding war, forget that. Like, it's done. And so you have someone cornering the market. And so the third part of this that always happens is that typically pay decreases. Even if you manage to keep your job, even if your show is bought, you have someone now with all the purchasing power in the world who can flatten the ceiling on prices.
It's hard to have leverage. You can't leverage other offers around.
And so, in the previous administration under Lena Khan at the FTC, she was very clear about laying out, these are the pain points where a merger should be blocked. Loss of income, loss of loss of competition in the marketplace, that it hurts the consumer. And I think one of the things...
Tick.
Yes, ding, ding, ding. And so I think that one of the things that Ted Sarandos said yesterday was talking about how this is going to be so great for the consumer, and yet this is a company that has raised the price on your Netflix subscription.
Every year it seems to tick up a buck.
Every year it's
cheeky dollar here and there.
It's like
Thanks, Ted.
A college education, just like, oh, really? You're charging that much again? And so it just keeps going up and up. So I think that as much as he's saying nice words right now, and as much as they're saying nice words, the history has not shown that that any of these companies necessarily are thinking about saving the consumer money.
Netflix does seem pretty triggering to people in Hollywood. Is that because they're more a tech player than a traditional studio, or is it because they make pretty crap movies?
So this is this is very much like, for Charlie Brown watchers, this is very much Lucy and the Football.
Okay.
Because, let's wind back, let's say, I don't know, 15 years ago, and Netflix arrives in town. They're driving everybody nuts because they're just doing deals everywhere, and then all the studios are like, "That's cute. Okay, I'll sell them my garbage," and then they'll run it and jokes on them.
Yeah, right.
And then it turns out jokes on us.
That Jeff Bucas quote, right?
Yeah. Well, so yes, so Netflix with House of Cards, their first big hit show, they start to get into the business of premium television, and so then this creates all this tension between, let's say, the OG premium player of HBO, and where they are actually competing for shows and competing for attention, and Netflix was still small then, and Jeff Bucas, the former CEO of Warner Brothers, gave Time Warner gave this quote. The Albanian Army isn't taking over or something like that. It'd be like the Albanian Army taking over, and here we are, and the Albanian Army is here,
is knocking down the door.
Yeah, and so then so Netflix, which used to be like the tail that wagged the dog, is now the dog, and everyone else is the tail flapping around. And I think it's
kind of extraordinary.
It's unbelievable. And so now we are facing a moment in Hollywood where we really are. It was always a given over the last few years that we might end up with just 4 streamers. And those former streamers would be Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and HBO. HBO Max, I think. All right, I think number 4 was always going to be in question.
Right.
And now, this is kind of this nightmarish scenario where now we're going to have Netflix, Amazon, and Apple potentially down the road, because we're not even talking about. It's amazing how fast David Ellison exited the chat, as one would say. David Ellison. You're now holding Paramount. The bad news is you bought Paramount, and it's still the last place studio. It's still the last place streamer, and dang. And now Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers makes the job that much harder for Comcast, which has Peacock and is not a fast-growing streamer,
service,
and Paramount. And then if you're Disney, you're also what's happening, and and I think some of the inner workings of Hollywood, which might not be apparent to everyone who listens to your podcast, is that Warner Brothers Television is one of the powerhouses of television. It's a studio where they can sell television to all sorts of other buyers. So they have Ted Lasso on Apple. They have Abbott Elementary on ABC. They have The Bachelor on ABC. So if this deal goes through, Netflix can be like, sorry, they're now our shows. And you could really end up choking the huge
industry. So do you think this deal does get done? I mean, obviously there's a couple of factors here. There's the Trump factor. This needs regulatory approval. And then you've also got the Ellison association with Trump, which you alluded to earlier. Do you think this gets waved through?
So I don't think I think there was a lot of chatter yesterday. Oh, Trump's going to intervene. He's going to try to put his thumb on the scale for the Ellisons. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that, I think if you look at Trump's conversation in the Oval Office with Zoran Mamdani, he likes winners.
Right.
And
for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like he'll like Ted's hair. I mean, certain things that are very
nice hair.
Nice hair, and he'll respect the hair. He'll respect the money. And also I think he gets tired of I'm not calling David Ellison or Paramount losers. In any kind of bidding war, there's always a loser. But Trump views the world through winners and losers, and I think he might want to be with the winner. And also, Ted has managed to, even though he's, definitely Hughes left. His wife had been an ambassador under Obama. I'm sure they're trying to not remind Donald Trump of that right now. But Ted also was at Mar-a-Lago for several hours earlier this year. His whole job has been talent relations, and in his own mind, he is the biggest star in the world, Donald Trump. And so he's now in the talent relations business with Donald Trump.
Speaking of winners, does this mean that David Zaslav gets the last laugh? I mean, at one point, someone had said to me, Janice, this bloke, Zaslav, is the most hated man in this town.
Yes.
Does he now get the last laugh here?
I mean, his bank account will tell you yes.
Right.
I mean, it is extraordinary.
It's quite something, right?
This is an extraordinary feat, and I don't mean that in a complimentary way necessarily.
Right.
Like, you come to town, you take on so much debt on this studio that you are underwater. You have a legacy business that you can't figure out what to do with, and you're going to walk away with $500 million largely in cash in a transaction. And that's
not bad.
That, like, good money if you can get it. And so, but I think you look at probably all the different convulsions at Warner Brothers. Remember, I think they've had, I don't know, this is not quite right, or maybe it is right, 5 owners in like 10 years, or I mean, something crazy. And the surest thing in every one of those transactions is that people lost their jobs.
Yep.
Lots of people lost their jobs, and the people at top got richer.
Right.
And I mean, you know, I'm here in New York with you. There's a reason Zora and Mamdani won, right? Like people are angry.
Pissed off.
People are
right.
totally pissed.
Right. Well, what happened to HBO under Zaz? Because I used to love HBO, home of, you know, so many cracking shows that I fell in love with. Well, it kind of became irrelevant.
No, I disagree with you.
Okay.
Maybe.
I mean, White Lotus was
maybe
a
the shows
cracker.
aren't quite for you, and maybe it's faded from its heyday. It's funny, when at my hotel last night, which was not $1,000 a night, which maybe we'll talk about. But
Speaking of Zora Mamdani's win,
he needs to get control of the hotels here. They were rerunning there was some weird cable channel like HBO Gold or something, and they were showing The Sopranos. So we are certainly not at the heyday of The Sopranos and Sex and the City, but I'm not sure how much a linear cable channel that was put on some streaming service that was HBO Max, then HBO Max.
We'll go back to that.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll soon
what
be
are you doing, Max? HBO Max.
We'll soon be Net Max or something. But I do think HBO is still considered, like, if you're a showrunner, a top showrunner, a top producer, you want HBO to develop your show, because they'll put it through this ringer that is very hard to
pass muster.
Well, yeah, and like, in, you know, part of the streaming culture in Los Angeles, that's a part of it, is that you just jam stuff through. Like, who cares? Like, get it up. And you see that when you watch shows now, right? Like, you're like, there's
a lot of crap out there.
There's just a lot of crap. And this is like, okay, it's not great. And HBO would never put out something they thought wasn't great, and whether you liked it or not, but they would never put out something they thought wasn't great. And so you are getting what is still considered the crown jewel of television, if you're Netflix now. And what that looks like, I mean, are they really going to have 2 streaming services, HBO Max?
You can't see that, right?
No.
There has to be synergies, as they say in the biz.
Yeah, no, that's going to be synergized, like, really fast, really fast.
I mean, so production is down, the strikes, people terrified of losing their jobs, and now this. How do you think the town kind of muddles their way through?
Oh my God, lots of Xanax.
A lot of Xanax. Yeah, I was going to say, a lot of prescriptions. Just lining up outside the doctor's office in Beverly Hills, just saying,
my God,
write me another script, please.
Jumbo.
How am I going to get the jumbo pack of all the meds they need to get through this? And I haven't even mentioned AI. I'm going to come to that a little bit later. But
that was totally missing in the conversation, by the way. But people are stressed. I think this is where you're seeing, it's not unlike journalism. Granted, most of these people were probably making more money than journalists. Journalists never were getting super rich, except for a handful. And
have you seen the suit I'm wearing? I mean,
it looks fancy, like Savile Row stuff happening.
It's not. Thank you. It means a lot.
The breaker doesn't have a bespoke suit.
No, the bean counter can only speak for the hat at this point. Never smoked Savile Row yet.
But this is where people are having to make really hard life decisions.
Right.
Like Los Angeles is not a cheap place to live, right? And
the fires as well. I didn't even mention the fires.
It's like all the locusts have descended on Los Angeles,
on the town.
And so, do you stay? Do you try? We're doing a story in a few weeks about alternative careers people have done.
Oh, really?
And,
what's on the cards?
It's not. These aren't jobs you necessarily like. If you were wanted to work in Hollywood, you weren't like, ooh, I want to have an artisanal shop, like, but
cheese shop.
But
maybe that's the alternative.
But it is almost like, I think the come down from working in Hollywood can be working in an artisanal cheese shop, right? Like you're just like, that was insane, and I think the disconnect is really between what workers think is they think there might be a comeback. They think that things might turn around, and you have the people at the very top who are like, we're shipping these jobs overseas. We're opening a facility, huge studios out in New Jersey in Bayonne. Speaking of The Sopranos, and we're gonna just start squeezing this into a way where we can make as much content as possible that costs as little money.
It's so grim. It is so grim. You, after People magazine, really kind of first made your mark at Us Weekly.
Yeah.
It was owned at the time by Jan Wenner, who started Rolling Stone.
Yes.
What was that experience like of working for Jan Wenner?
Okay, so I'm proud to say I think I'm the only editor at whoever worked for Jan who was not carried out in a body bag.
It's quite the accomplishment, Janice.
Yeah, I'm very proud of that. Like when Jan goes negative on someone, it's like I saw it happen multiple times when I was there because there were other publications in the building, and it is it's hard to unring the bell.
Right.
And and luckily I was doing a publication that he was not necessarily. He had some very good ideas, but he wasn't necessarily the market for, and so he would come in and be like, "I have an idea for you." I'd be like, "Okay, Danny DeVito, Michael Douglas." I'm like, "Okay." And so,
what is the actual idea? These are names. These are names of blokes. There's actually an idea behind it.
He wants, he wanted to see more coverage of some of his contemporaries.
Right.
And I understand that because he didn't want it to be like the Jessica Simpson, buffet.
Right.
And so I understood that, but you could see him, wanting, like, if Us Weekly was at the time like the white hot epicenter of culture, pop culture. Right. Culture might be a strong term, but pop culture. Then he wanted to be part of it, because in some ways Rolling Stone held that mantle before, and Rolling Stone was sort of. So it was interesting because, we worked right down the hall from Rolling Stone, and Rolling Stone was still, and maybe still is, putting, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Bono.
I think they're still doing this.
Bon Jovi, like
play the greatest.
For the greatest hits, totally the greatest hits, and Jan was very pop culturally savvy, but one time when we were talking about Beyonce, he pronounced it Beyonce, right? And so it just wasn't in his worldview, and I don't hold that against him, right? I mean, he did an amazing thing with Rolling Stone, and was, I'd like to say, generous enough, I think smart enough to not get in the way of Us Weekly.
I was reading up about your tenure there last night, and I came across a press clipping. Min also created a calmer environment in the workplace, which had previously been dramatic and contentious. Can you elaborate on that?
Oh my God! Okay, so for my first 14,
dramatic and contentious.
It was very dramatic.
Right.
And
because your predecessor was Bonnie Fuller.
Yes,
is that right?
Yes.
I'm assuming that was what this was referring to. I wasn't sure. I needed to get some clarity on that.
So imagine Bonnie plus Jan.
That's one hell of a duo.
Oh my God! I would be in meetings with them, and you're like, wow, like left, right. I'm like, I'm kind of uncomfortable, like watching this happen. I mean, they just would go at it.
Wow.
And Bonnie, like, never met a deadline she liked, right? And so it was, I recall these early days with Bonnie, where you would walk, like, the closes were so insane. She would go off and see her trainer, Radu.
You would go on deadline?
Yeah, she would go see her trainer. She would go get her nails done. She would go out to dinner. And so, like, everyone is just, like, waiting there. And then, you know, the worst of it was when, like, I would get, you know, you would have these closing nights when you would do print publications where you had to put the publication to bed.
Sure.
And so then
it has to go to the printers.
Eventually it has to go to the
Walmart
printer.
and the supermarkets and the airports.
Yes, the trucks are waiting for you. And I walked out and I'm like, oh my God, the sun has risen and the bread trucks are out and like the bread was being delivered. I will never forget that. And like, so it was just like sort of, I mean, you know, everyone was young, so they could sort of handle it, but it was also just unbelievably debilitating. And and that kind of chaos like cost the company money because you would miss deadlines. Of course,
and the printers, you know.
Yep. But I think that what was interesting was like, you know, in that age of newsstand publications, you know, you got your weekly scans back, your results of what sold.
And numbers.
So if the publication was released on a Wednesday to newsstands, on Monday you would get the figures back from. There were two major scanning.
And you had the early numbers.
Like Walmart, Target, and Hudson News, and so you know, Bonnie's numbers had ceased to rise. And so, and there was this crazy threshold where you had to sell 550,000 copies of a magazine on a newsstand every week in order to make money, because publishing a weekly publication was so expensive. And so, you know, she was teetering around 5 to 550, so the magazine was still losing money. And so, you know, they eventually blow up and you know.
And she goes out in the body bag.
she did not go. No, she zipped herself up in a body bag
and then went to go see the trainer and get her nails done at the same time.
But then you know, put herself got into business with David Pecker.
Of course, at Star Magazine.
And so then I became, you know, so it doesn't happen that often where like the you know, toiling executive editor, the number 2, like
gets elevated.
Yeah, but I did, and it ended up being, you know, very successful.
And you continued to be elevated. You then went on to run The Hollywood Reporter, which was co-owned by Jimmy Finkelstein.
Oh my God!
Who, you know, is kind of infamous now, owing to the comical situation with The Messenger last year. Everyone, I think, you know, will remember The Messenger. What was it like to work for Jimmy Finkelstein?
Okay.
After having Jan Wenner, now you've got Jimmy Finkelstein.
I'm very good at managing a certain type of person,
Clearly.
By the way. But and I know you were first and foremost among people breaking news about The Messenger.
I really was. That was quite something. That was really quite something in terms of media stories.
So, you know, there were 2 owners. It was Jimmy Finkelstein and Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Sorry, Donald Trump. He's in my head because of Jimmy.
In everyone's head.
But there is a story about that actually involving Jimmy's ownership. It was Todd Bowley.
Of course.
Jimmy Finkelstein. And you know, Todd ultimately bought out Jimmy's stake. But I think maybe 3 years into my tenure there.
Okay.
But you know, Jimmy, I have to say. So remember, this is the group who I was involved with. It was Jimmy Finkelstein.
Yeah.
Richard Beckman.
Of course, Mad Dog. He has a nickname, Mad Dog.
Richard Beckman and Todd Bowley.
Wow.
And me.
Wow.
So, you know, for these 3 guys who I think can be considered probably ruthless in their own way, they were weirdly and refreshingly incredibly respectful of editorial, a little bit afraid of editorial. Like, I would say a little bit, certainly deferential to, you know, to make a suggestion to me was like the scariest possible thing for them, which I loved. And
they weren't saying Danny DeVito.
No, they were definitely not saying Danny DeVito. And you know, the fact that it took off like out of the gate was great. Like that bought me like free license, like my whole time I was there, which was fantastic. But I will say, given, you know, what you reported and others about The Messenger later, like when I interviewed Donald Trump in 2016 and Jimmy Finkelstein, the first thing Donald Trump said to me, aside from, oh, it's the greatest editor in our life. Okay, all right, nice Google search. Okay, so then he said, you know, I call up my friend Jimmy Finkelstein, and I was like, why does a Hollywood Reporter have to say such terrible things about me?
The Apprentice.
The Celebrity Apprentice ratings.
Of course,
and he said, Jimmy Finkelstein said to him, you know, I have nothing to do with the edit. I leave my editors alone. which I don't know if that was true at The Hill or other publications, but it certainly was true when I worked with Jimmy.
Which is impressive.
Yeah.
And it's something every editor would like to hear. Was there a story, Janice, or a cover or an interview while you're running THR that you really wanted to nail and for whatever reason you couldn't get it up?
Well, Harvey Weinstein, obviously,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so the Harvey story was, I mean, it's what, like, almost from day one. It's something we were like, okay, we know things have happened, things aren't good, and it was just sort of, you kind of felt like you could chase it endlessly, and you kind of felt like, I don't know, are we the crazy ones?
Right.
And then, I think along the way there were certain points when Rose McGowan, for example, started to tweet things, and when other people were dropping pretty large hints. And anyway, it was great to see it finally come out and be nailed in that way by other outlets. Like, congratulations to them. That was just an amazing
extraordinary journalism.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And even though women are so over right now, it was a great moment. We had a good 6-year run after Me Too.
We had Tina Brown on the pod last week,
and we were talking.
So she's brilliant as you, talking about how every great career has a flame out. And you went on to have a very short stint at Quibi.
Yeah.
Remember Quibi with
yes.
Jeffrey Katzenberg? I think you were in and out in 6 months.
No.
Okay.
11 months.
I'm sorry. I
Lachlan.
didn't count my months. What was that experience like?
I mean, I think we know what that experience was like because we see what the outcome was, right? Like, it was, I respect the ambition that was brought to that project. The execution, we see what it was, right?
Yeah.
And I think what when you look at it now in historical context, which is not really that long ago, but you see this kind of very Hollywood thing. This you're trying to have people who are bringing a top-down view of short-form content. They're going to impose their view of short-form content into a world of creators where the audience is deciding. And so these aren't my words, but people thought the content was super cringy, right? And
it also was going on during a plague. When I think maybe people were looking for maybe something else, or
they were looking for short form content. But they just weren't looking for that short form content. I mean, I think there was that fallacy in they're like, no, it was the pandemic that killed it. No, it was because TikTok had an unbelievable surge. All social, every streaming platform, everyone but Quibi had a surge, and goodbye $1 billion.
Disney Succession is going to be a huge storyline in 2026. It's been a huge storyline, I feel like, for the last several years. Who is going to get that top job?
Okay.
And why is it taking so long?
Well, can I just back up and say, it's a big story because they make it a big story. Because Disney has to tell you every step of the way. We're thinking about this. We're going to announce it. We have someone on the board who's going to be leading the process. The guy from Morgan Stanley, and we're on it. And okay, whereas other places they just announce a successor. Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway wasn't like, I'm going to be stepping down and, who's going to take over for me? He just announced it, and you have move on. And so they have serialized this, true to television people. They have serialized this adventure. I mean, if I had to guess right now, and hopefully this holds up in library content here, but I'm going to guess it's a co-CEO-ship with with Josh D'Amaro and Dana Walden.
Okay.
But I think yesterday's news with Netflix and HBO and Warner Brothers changes everything.
I was going to say, does that change the dynamics?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know exactly how it changes, but boy, you are going to have to be playing a much more defensive and offensive game than you thought you were going to be playing in the next 5 years. It's no longer like, can we make money? It's like, can we survive? And Disney, one of the things we wrote about at The Ankler is that Disney's doing this thing now where they just keep raising prices over and over. And we ask the question, is Disney becoming a luxury brand?
Right.
Which, I mean, if you go to the parks,
I went to Euro Disney last year when I was in Paris for the
You did?
Olympia. I did. I was there with some good mate of mine who's got a beautiful few kids, and I did go on all the rides, by the way.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. But they just gouged you every step of the way, whether the crap food that we had to eat, the merch, the entry ticket. I did feel like they were absolutely hosing me.
Right. It's like, do you want to not stand in a line for 3 hours? Well, that's going to cost you.
Yeah, you can
right?
pay for these my mate was paying for these VIP tickets as we were there to bypass the queue.
Well, the world has become VIP for rich people, right?
Yeah.
And this is
the haves and have-nots.
The haves and have-nots, and and unfortunately, the way that the entertainment industry has positioned itself now, they have to go with the haves and not the have-nots. Remember, like cable television, which in and of itself cost money, but that was a great democratizer of content, right? That for a pretty, an amount that was too much, but pretty, doable for millions and millions of people.
Right.
The content was just pumped into your home, and now it's like, oh my God, like. I think my family pays, I don't know, $25 a month on Netflix, maybe it's more than that. And, we have.
And then you've got HBO and then you've got the other one, and they are.
And then, if you want to watch sports now, too, like, good luck figuring out where you're going to watch something.
Sure.
And then, you're probably going to be gated somewhere.
Right. What will Iger's legacy be from Disney?
Well, I know what it would have been if he had taken the win when he left the first time, right? Like that was golden.
Yeah. And go out on a high. The Jerry Seinfeld, go out on a high.
Go out on a high.
On your own terms.
Oh my God. I mean,
yeah.
that's sort of like when I left Us Weekly and Hollywood Reporter, I was like, I'm done. Like, great. Like, unsullied, right?
Next,
and so I think with Iger, he'll go down as one of the greats, and I think there'll be an asterisk over the last few years. Like, this was tough. Like, he chose to come back in one of the toughest environments possible, and linear television, the cable melt, as it's called, like, has just accelerated, and it kind of, pulled out all the revenue out of these companies. And now we have the risk of theatrical pulling out another big chunk of revenue out of the companies with Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers. And so, I think that the company didn't collapse over the last 3 years under Iger is a win.
And take that win. In 2021, you team up with Richard Rushfeld as the anchor. You take, the scrappy newsletter, you make it into easily, in my opinion, Hollywood's best publication.
You
have a suite of newsletters. You have events. It's kind of been incredible to sort of watch what you've built there. What has the vision been?
I mean, the vision has been, so when I partnered with Richard on this, you had the greatest thing ever. I'm sure it's like your newsletter. It's organic. Like, you have people who are like forwarding it around. Oh my God.
Oh, I have that problem.
Yes, exactly. Can they stop, you freeloaders? But you want that kind of word of mouth. And he had amassed this subscription base of he showed me the list, and I was like, oh my God, this is like...
You have everyone in this town.
Everyone, like a murderer's row of everyone in charge. And it was sort of this weekly memo to Hollywood. And at the same time that Richard was launching, you had Jay Penske buying The Hollywood Reporter, which was, a horrible decision.
Where I used to work for around 6 months.
Yeah, yes. It was your Quibi.
Right.
And so...
What's my Quibi?
and so it was... And so you seeing what Jay Penske did with publications did not make me think things were going to get better, right? That you could see sort of this homogenization of...
He's basically running a monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, his own little mini monopoly, of media. And so it felt like there was room for like something voicier, something so much more inside baseball, but something that actually was fully understood the change happening in the industry at that moment. And, I think there were times, I think the trades have gotten better, but they were sort of living their colonial Williamsburg, Hollywood, Polo Lounge.
I found this, Erwin juice over here that the assistants are getting. Wow.
Yeah, so...
Deep business reporting, that is.
Exactly. And plus, top 10 Kardashian, outfits. I mean, the crazy...
Danny DeVito.
Yeah, exactly. And, they were always in a Danny DeVito mode. And so they, but they were... they were also in this position of doing, when we now know how detrimental it's been, chasing scale journalism, chasing web traffic. And when you start to do that, your audience is not your focus, right? You are writing for advertisers, you're writing for clicks, and you are not writing for the audience. And so
you're totally neglecting your reader, which is the first rule of this.
And in fact, you're abusing your reader, right? Because you're just sending out
the breaking news blast.
Oh my God!
I mean, those Hollywood Reporter breaking news blasts
are like
mental.
They are
mental,
and you kind of are like, wait.
Firstly, who are these people? Secondly, what is going on?
What is going on?
Thing?
Why would I care who wrote that headline?
And this is broken news rather than breaking news. Yeah.
And then, you get them, if you subscribe to all the Hollywood trades that Penske owns, Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and then they're IndieWire, Gold Derby, there are all these, so many of them, and it's just you spend all day deleting your inbox, delete. I mean, I imagine the open rates on those have to be
just what, like in the single digits?
In the single digits. In the single digits.
Probably being generous.
Yeah. Anyway, so in that environment, it felt like there was room for a fresh voice. And I think that Hollywood has always been very welcoming of incumbent voices. Yeah. And that was Nikki Fink way back. You know, it was Hollywood Reporter when I took it over. And so Richard, it's funny, Lachlan, that speaking the truth can be very effective.
I found that with Breaker.
How shocking. And kind of doing it without...
Refreshing.
Without fear or favor, right? And so... Richard really built following that way, and then I brought on next Sean McNulty, who
friend of Breaker, the Wake Up,
and who was
great addition,
amazing, and how hard it is to do these newsletters. Yeah. Sean was doing it on his own by himself every day.
We just do this twice a week, and it's always killing me.
And wasn't charging anyone. Wow. And so someone over at Netflix, one of the top comms people, was like, "Do you know the Wake Up?" And within a week, I had lunch with Sean, and he was on board with us.
Amazing.
And he is probably the smartest, finest business mind covering the entertainment
100%.
Space, and funny, and a good, as you would say, good bloke.
Yeah, he's a good.
And then from that, we kind of built on people around that to go deeper into certain parts of the industry, and I think.
You've got an influencer one, you've got serious
Natalie
business.
Jarvie.
I think what's incredibly smart about the Anchor, you build out these verticals, and there's a need for them because they're not being served by the monopoly of Penske Media that it's sending out blasts about people you've never heard of.
Yeah, Met Gala, top 100 outfits. And I think what's been an interesting discipline for me in the process is so if I could go from being, the editor of Us Weekly where you're selling, 1.5 million copies of a publication on a newsstand, as mass as you can get, to the discipline around doing something niche around a certain space. So it's no, we're not going to do that. No, we're going to do this, not that. That requires a certain sort of editorial discipline because I'm doing it both for the audience, right? Yeah. For the subscribers, but also as a business, when I think about an eventual outcome for Ankler, and I imagine one day, none of us are going to be doing our jobs forever, and there will be value in owning a corner of your specialty, right?
Sure.
That can plug into someone else's
100%.
corner instead of doing more of what everyone else is doing. Right. And so we've been very, I would say, mindful and disciplined about that. And we believe that rarefied audience is, absolutely worth serving and, valuable to sponsors, valuable to, someone down the road, but is of value.
New voices in Hollywood. The California Post is launching on your patch early next year. I just wrote a piece for Vanity Fair, which you were quoted in.
Yes.
How do you think Murdoch, Uncle Rupes' new venture in LA is gonna go?
Well, okay. So isn't this typically what happens with Rupert Murdoch when he launches something? It first goes badly, and then it goes well. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, of course. I'm thinking of only The Daily way back.
The Daily, yes, that was something I referenced in my piece.
Yeah, but I think there is a huge part of California that will love this. I think for a place that to bring it back to Us Weekly a second, when I edited Us Weekly, it was the #1 selling publication in California,
right?
And and that's because people in California love
Gossip. Yep.
They love celebrity.
Correct.
They, and now you have a place. It's what's interesting is you haven't had anyone really taking the stuffing out of like the star system of Los Angeles.
Right.
And that star system can now include Shohei Ohtani at the Dodgers. It can include,
Karen Bass.
It can, politics are our new entertainment, right?
Yeah, right.
And it can include
the tech bros, the billionaires out of SF.
Like there's, I think these are
it's
all
target rich, target right.
giant pinatas, waiting for the post to, take a swing, and Page Six perseveres amazingly, and I don't know. I mean. By the way, the welcome mat has been rolled out for it in some ways, or they don't even have to break down a door because the Los Angeles Times is not. As
someone said to me for this piece, a publication that consistently punches below its weight.
Well below its weight, right? And I think what's weird about the Los Angeles Times is that they. When you read individual stories, they're good, they're fine. But something about the mojo is so off that you imagine the stories are bad, you think that it's not good, you think that people who work there aren't relevant. And that's a horrible place to be. There are a lot of great journalists who are doing work there that just is
they did great work on the ice raids, they did great work on the fires, but you're right, there's this kind of, constant sort of,
doom and gloom, like the weird doctor.
The doctor, and his daughter, and it's like, what's going on? He's doing drug approvals over there, and you're like, well, what's going on with this publication?
He seems insane.
Yeah, batshit.
But he seems absolutely batshit. And I think at some point, people in Los Angeles, which has never been like a community, it's all a series of communities, and they're just like, we're out.
Right.
We're out.
Right.
Yeah.
You had this great interview at Web Summit, and it was with Aline van der Velden, who's the creator of an AI actress, Tilly Norwood. First, I just love the name Tilly Norwood. How is AI going to change Hollywood?
Oh, my God. So, I thought it was very revealing in the conference call yesterday, unless I missed it, that Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters did about the Warner Brothers acquisition, that AI did not come up.
Interesting.
And, but if you were to guess all the studios and streamers who might embrace AI first.
Right, it'd be Netflix.
It would be Netflix.
100%.
Right? The way I view AI in Hollywood right now, everybody's lying just a little bit.
Right.
Studios are exploring it and using it more than they say.
Right.
Writers are using it more than they say. The AI companies are lying about just how much capability their tools have. But so it's still like this,
everyone's kind of dancing around it in a way that you're just like, hey, what's actually happening with this?
It's like saying you're a Trump supporter in Hollywood. Like I'm just gonna drop a few hints, but I'm not gonna come right out and say it because then I'll be ostracized by everyone. So, but this, the union negotiations. So you remember the strikes that crippled Hollywood. Believe it or not, they're back on again. The negotiations, the contract negotiations are back on. So
which AI is going to be front and center.
It was front and center last time. One of the lines we've written, one of our writers, Eric Barmack, wrote was the guilds they excel at fighting yesterday's AI battle. And because the technology is just moving so fast. And so can you imagine these negotiations, I think, will probably begin around March of 2026.
Wow.
So you're going to have Netflix, Warner Brothers, AI, and writers and performers who have lost so much of their leverage. And, going back to, I think, one of the themes that seems to be of this entire conversation is the haves and have-nots.
Sure.
And so if you're a have in Hollywood, if you are one of the top showrunners, if you're
Shonda
Rhimes, Ryan Murphy, Chuck Lorre. You're squarely in the have bucket, and you're going to be fine. You're writing all of this out.
Right.
If you're in the middle class or below, you're talking about for performers, synthetic voices are going to be used in voiceover.
Wow.
If it's not Chris Pratt doing your voiceover for you, right? And you're going to have crowd scenes of extras in movies. Does it matter that you cast, the guy across the street or if it's just an AI generated performance? So you could have people storming the shores of Normandy and Saving Private Ryan and not have to pay all those pesky actors, right? And so I think you will see things happening faster and production happening faster and cheaper, and both those things are not good for craftspeople. I think with one of the things the Tilly Norwood creator said was that, and I believe this to be true, that you are already seeing synthetic performance in commercials that you don't know about.
You don't know about it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure, I was having this conversation with my daughter where everyone's mom is getting tricked by AI videos. Like one of them was like dogs cooking, and someone's mother thought it was real, and like it was because it does look so real.
Right.
That was that was what was so unnerving about Tilly Norwood.
Correct. It is so real, like when I was watching.
Yeah. And I think GPT-5, so OpenAI is really driving a lot of this panic in Hollywood because they have ChatGPT and they have Sora 2, and Sora 2 is trying to become an enclosed ecosystem of AI-generated videos. The new Netflix, right? And GPT-5 is one of the phrases that we have said everyone is using now in Hollywood when you're writing or if you're a development executive about a script is like, did you run it through GPT-5?
Right.
And for consistency, for character development, for suggestions, or marketing teams, or give me 20 funny slogans about Rush Hour 5 or whatever.
Danny DeVito,
right? Who give me 100 casting ideas for this role, and so like all those jobs, those kind of apprenticeship level jobs, gone.
Right.
And so how are you going to develop the next category? And I think when you think about Netflix, they've called YouTube their competitor, not Hollywood.
Right.
Somewhere Sora 2 and OpenAI is also their competitor. And I think if they had mentioned that at all yesterday on the call,
people really would have been lining up at the Beverly Hills doctor's office for this Xanax.
Yeah. The IVs would be put in place. So, but I mean, I have to imagine that is the next conversation, right?
Barry Weiss, who is also on Substack, the Free Press, recently got a $150 million liquidity event from the Allisons. Would you and Richard look to sell the Ankler at some point?
I mean, let's see. If someone would like to come talk to us about $150 million.
Also, if they want to talk to Breaker Media, you can find us breakermedia.com.
I mean, I think you have to always entertain those thoughts, right? Like it's your responsibility. Like we have. I know you don't have investors. We have investors.
Sure.
A small number. We have. We only took on a $1.3 million seed round, but I don't think they were investing in us because they thought we were such great people, right? It's because
they want a return.
They want a return.
Right.
So. Sure. Yeah. Of course. I mean, I think I think that you'll see with all these independent publications like yours, like ours, there will be, I think everyone will hit probably some kind of subscriber ceiling. And
are we at subscription fatigue? Like, are there too many newsletters?
I think we are definitely in subscription fatigue.
Right.
I think that the inbox, which was supposed to be this direct way to connect with your audience, like it's now the place everyone goes to delete things all day,
right? And including from the Hollywood Reporter breaking news alerts.
Exactly. But kind of everything. You're just like delete. Some of it is because the news cycle is moving so fast. You feel like even if you've received something in the morning, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant by the time you're cleaning out your inbox. And so we're trying to be very mindful of that and thinking about how we reach our audience in all sorts of other ways. And so I would like to think Ankler in the future, newsletters is one component of what we do. Okay. But we're never going to be doing Kim Kardashian's 100 greatest outfits at the Met Gala.
I think we know where we could find that type of coverage.
You can probably 3 to 5 places at Penske that will serve you that story.
The same story over, just blasted out in your breaking news. Janice Min, for coming on the Breaker Pod. You can watch this pod on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. You can subscribe to Breaker at breakermedia.com. That's breakermedia.com. And we'll be back next week. Cheers.